From the drinks industry to chemicals, and from vehicles to aerospace, Britain relies on its key industries to pay its way in the world. But Brexit has thrown the continued success of these industries into doubt. Without a free trade agreement with the European Union, their exports will be saddled with tariffs and red tape. And few industries are more important to the UK economy than pharmaceuticals. The UK is a world leader in drugs research, and many in the industry are worried about what will happen after Brexit. The industry body, the ABPI, says quick progress will need to be made to maintain the UK's leading position.
So the worst scenario for us is a system where we don't have agreement on movement of goods across borders, and we have a very long bureaucratic process which essentially takes time to get a medicine or an ingredient in a medicine across a border. If governments put systems in our way that we just can't get through for legal reasons, then we can't do it. And that would be very, very damaging to patients and to public health.
The ABPI insists a UK departure from the EMA is not in anyone's best interests. And there's a theme emerging, a warning. It's not only the UK with something to lose.
The reality is that if the marketplace and if our ability to develop medicines here and produce them gets constrained, the reality is that that money and that investment will move to America. And I think it's really important that in a difficult negotiation between the UK and the EU, that people just rise above it and recognise that actually the common outcome here that nobody wants is that money goes to America and the money doesn't stay in the UK and in the EU.
So now the race is on to conclude a free trade agreement before the UK leaves the EU in March 2019. Businesses see that this is vital for their own stability and the wider economy.
So it hits that vital word which runs those economies, confidence. And the longer this goes on without being clear as to what happens, the more that confidence leaches that confidence away.
And for all the division among Britons, the message on the street is clear. After 18 months of arguments and mixed messages, just get on with it.
We voted that way. Some of us like it, some of us don't, but we just need to move on and get to a sensible deal with them, yeah.
Well, it's been going on for such a long time. We have to see progress, otherwise we're going to be in no man's land. It's very worrying, and nobody at the moment quite knows where we're going to go.
And no one is going to know for quite some time where the UK is heading. Trade negotiations won't begin until February at the earliest, and it'll take a minor miracle to reach a deal by Brexit Day in March 2019. As they say, where there's a will, there's always a way. Jessica Omari in London for TRT World.
Joining me now from Cardiff in the UK is Patrick Minford. He's a professor of economics at Cardiff University. Welcome back to Money Talks, Professor. Great to have you as always. Do you think, are you more optimistic now than you were at the beginning of 2017 that the UK can reach a favourable trade deal with the EU by October?
Well, yes, I am actually rather optimistic because they've got through this first hurdle of the first round of talks, which were going to be about, you know, Ireland and citizens' rights and money, and they seem to be getting nowhere. And then suddenly they got agreement on it. And I think now there's real concern that if they don't get agreement with us over the next few months, they may well find themselves without you know, a trade deal. And they've begun to realize that actually that's pretty serious for EU industries that sell to this very big UK market. And actually our analysis suggests the same, that the big losers from no deal will be the EU because they won't get any money. And they also will face a much more competitive market in the UK with tariffs as well. And that's really not in their interest. So I think there will be a deal quite smartly, actually, across the board. What's sometimes called Canada plus plus.
Yes, indeed. David Davis has talked about this. In fact, he talked about Canada plus 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 plus. I don't know how many pluses there were in
pluses,
that. Yes. But Prime Minister Theresa May goes into phase 2 in a much weaker position than she did even in phase 1, and that wasn't particularly strong. Do you think she is going to survive this round of negotiations, politically speaking?
I really can't agree with you. I think her position has strengthened immeasurably because everybody realized there's no alternative. I mean, that's a very strong position to be in. There was an awful lot of speculation earlier that, you know, she was weak and she could be replaced. Nobody wants to replace her. And there's nobody, if they did want to replace her, who'd want them to replace her, because she's turned out to be very adept at negotiation, and she's clear. She gets her ministers to agree. We've now reached agreement, it would seem, from what we're told, on the general requests for a trade deal, that we will go for being outside the single market and outside the customs union, and go for Canada Plus, or however many pluses you like, which will be, mutual recognition on services and things like the city, and also zero tariffs, and the money as agreed in the first stage. And that will be one where we diverge gradually on regulation. So we have freedom to make our trade agreements with everybody else and to make our own regulations as they turn out over time to be best for the UK. So I think she's got the ministers in agreement, and she's in a strong position, really.
Professor Patrick Minford from Cardiff University, thank you ever so much.